All right, let's dive in. Today's topic is something we all experience every single day, but probably don't think too much about. We're talking about clothes. Specifically, the question of why humans wear clothes. I mean, it seems basic, right?
Right.
For warmth, for protection. But then you look around and you see all these incredible variations in clothing styles, and you realize there's got to be more to it. Wouldn't you agree?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
And what's so fascinating is that clothing really sets humans apart in the animal kingdom. It goes way beyond just practicality.
It's true. I mean, you don't see squirrels stressing about what to wear,
Exactly.
but for us humans, there's this whole layer of psychology and social signaling tied to clothing.
Exactly. It's like we've got this deep-seated feeling of, well, embarrassment when we're not covered up.
Mm.
And that's not something you see in other animals.
Right. So the question is why?
Yeah.
Why are BE so hung up on covering up when other animals aren't?
Well, that feeling of embarrassment, evolutionarily speaking, is actually a powerful force for social cohesion.
Oh, interesting.
It's like, think about it. When you break a social norm, you feel embarrassed. That feeling helps keep us all on the same page.
Okay, I'm kind of seeing where you're going with this, but break it down for me. How does embarrassment act as this, like, social glue?
So researchers did this study where they had actors pretend to be either proud or embarrassed after receiving praise, right?
Okay.
And what they found was people were way more willing to cooperate with and befriend the actors who showed embarrassment.
Really? Just because they seemed a little embarrassed?
Yep. It signals that you care about social rules, that you want to fit in, makes you more trustworthy, more likable.
So showing a little humility makes you more appealing.
Hmm.
Counterintuitive, but I guess it makes sense.
Exactly. And speaking of fitting in, think about the word embarrassed for a second.
Okay.
It actually comes from a Portuguese word that means entangled or entwined. Almost like when we violate social norms, like, say, not wearing clothes,
Right.
we feel psychologically entangled, caught in a web of social disapproval.
Whoa, that adds a whole new layer to it.
Right. And that feeling, that entanglement, might have actually helped our ancestors survive by encouraging cooperation.
Wow. So we're talking about clothes as this driver of social cohesion. But what about the role clothing plays in, say, attraction and mate selection?
Oh, absolutely. That's another fascinating piece of this puzzle.
Yeah.
We dug up some writings by Havelock Ellis, a fascinating figure from the turn of the 20th century. Now, some of his language is a little outdated,
Yeah, I can imagine.
but his insights on modesty are really spot on. He talks about this vital phenomenon of refusal, this kind of push and pull you see in mating rituals across so many species.
Right, like playing hard to get, the
Yeah,
chase.
exactly. And clothing, in a way, amplifies that whole dynamic.
Okay, how so?
Well, think about it. Clothing can be attractive, right? Certain styles, certain colors can draw the eye,
For sure.
but it can also be a barrier.
Yeah.
Adds an element of mystery,
Yeah.
makes the whole mating game a bit more, well, selective.
So it's not just about covering up for warmth or modesty. It's about strategy,
Mhm.
about sending signals.
Right. And that brings us to another point, right?
Yeah.
Disgust avoidance.
Oh, right, yeah.
From an evolutionary perspective, it makes sense to stay away from things that could make us sick. Waste, bodily fluids, that kind of thing. And clothing provides a really practical way to maintain hygiene, reduce the risk of contamination.
Makes sense. And thinking about early humans, having that extra layer of protection from the element and the potential disease probably gave them a big advantage survival-wise.
Definitely. So we've got social cooperation, we've got mate selection, we've got disgust avoidance. It's like clothing is woven into the very fabric of our evolution.
I love that. But you mentioned something earlier about clothing in our brains.
Ah, yes. Now that's where things get really interesting.
All right, I'm ready. Hit me with it.
To understand that connection, we need to think about how incredibly helpless human babies are compared to other animals.
True. They're pretty much potatoes for like the first year.
Right. And some species, like megapodes,
Yegapose.
yeah, they're these incredible birds. They're practically born ready to hit the ground running.
Mm.
Or, well, flying in their case.
Wow. No diapers, no bottles, no problem.
Right. They're what's called precocial. Human babies, on the other hand,
Yeah.
we are very much not precocial.
We take our sweet time.
Exactly. Human babies are what we call altricial,
Hmm.
born totally dependent, need years of care.
Years. And why is that?
Well, the reason lies in our massive brains. Human babies need all that extra time outside the womb for their brains to grow and develop.
Our brains are huge. Compared to our bodies, it's almost comical.
You're not wrong, and that size requires an immense amount of parental care.
Okay, I'm starting to see the connection here, but how does clothing fit into all this?
Clothing is what frees us up to provide that extended care. It allows us to create a buffer between ourselves and the elements, right? Reduces that constant need to focus on survival.
I see.
More time and energy to devote to raising those big brain babies.
Okay, that's a mind-blowing connection. So clothes aren't just, gee, about fashion or even basic practicality. They're a reflection of our massive brains and the unique demands of raising those brains.
Exactly. It's really quite remarkable, isn't it? It really is remarkable, right? The connection between clothing and those big, powerful brains of ours.
It is. So we've got clothing helping us be more social, attracting mates, and keeping those icky germs away. But honestly, it's that brain connection that I'm still kind of stuck on.
It is a fascinating piece of the puzzle. We were talking about those megapode birds earlier. Remember, those little guys are born ready to go.
Yeah. Practically hatching with a flight plan and a pack lunch.
Right. A perfect example of what we call a precocial species.
Precocial, got it.
Uh,
Which humans are definitely not.
nope, not at all. We're what's called altricial,
Huh.
helpless, dependent. And that actually plays a huge role in our evolutionary success.
Okay, I'm all ears. How does being helpless make us so successful?
It all comes down to brain size. Human babies, they're born with incredibly complex brains, but they need a lot of time to develop. Years, in fact.
I mean, yeah, kids take forever to grow up. Everyone knows that.
Right, but it's not just about the time. It's about what's happening during that time. Those brains are growing and changing so much outside the womb. It's a trade-off, you see.
That trade-off.
We give up that immediate independence that you see in other species, but we gain the potential for incredible cognitive abilities.
So we're trading instant gratification for long-term brain power.
Exactly. And clothing, you see, clothing plays a crucial role in that equation.
Okay, bring it back to the clothes. I'm ready.
Think about it. If early humans were spending all their energy just surviving, staying warm, finding food, fending off predators, would they have the time and resources to care for these helpless infants?
Hmm, probably not. Those little potatoes are a lot of work.
Right. But clothing provides a buffer. It frees up our time and energy, allowing us to focus on nurturing those developing minds.
Clothing, the ultimate brain-boosting accessory.
You could say that. It allows us to focus on things like developing language, learning complex skills, all those things that require a powerful brain.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. So basically, clothing helps us create the space and the time for these incredible brains to grow and thrive.
Exactly. It's pretty amazing when you think about it. Something as simple as clothing playing such a fundamental role in shaping human intelligence.
Okay, mind officially blown. But now I have to ask, what about the future? How is clothing going to impact our brains going forward?
Ah, excellent question. We're already seeing technology integrated into clothing, right? Smartwatches, fitness trackers, all sorts of things.
Right. I'm wearing 2 fitness trackers as we speak. Gotta
Yeah,
get those steps.
exactly. And who knows what's next? What if we could have clothing that enhances our cognitive abilities?
Whoa, like clothes that make us smarter. Sign me up.
Right. Or clothing that connects our minds to the internet. The possibilities are endless.
Okay, now we're getting into some serious sci-fi territory. But it's exciting to think about. Maybe someday we'll all be wearing brain-boosting jumpsuits.
It's definitely a possibility.
Now,
But let's not get too carried away with the future just yet. I think it's important to take a step back and appreciate what we've learned about the past.
good point. So, to recap, we started with this seemingly simple question. Why do humans wear clothes? And we've discovered it's not so simple after all.
Nope, not simple at all. It's about social cohesion, attracting mates, avoiding disease, and most importantly, creating the conditions for our incredible brains to develop.
It's like clothing is this hidden thread woven through the entire story of human evolution.
Absolutely. And that story, my friend, is still being written.
Ooh, good line. I like that.
What will the next chapter hold? How will clothing continue to shape the human mind?
I guess we'll have to wait and see. But one thing's for sure, getting dressed in the morning just got a whole lot more interesting.
I think that's a great place to leave it for today. But before we go, I have a question for you, dear listener. Thinking about everything we've discussed, how do you think clothing might shape the evolution of human intelligence in the future? It's something to ponder, isn't it?
I love that. The story is still being written. And, it makes me think about all the different ways clothing is used around the world. We've been so focused on like the biological and evolutionary stuff.
Right.
But there's this whole other layer of culture and tradition, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Clothing can be so much more than just a functional necessity. It can be a symbol.
Totally. I mean, think about how certain colors are associated with royalty in some cultures, or how specific garments are worn for, like, ceremonies and rituals.
Exactly. And even within a single culture, clothing can communicate so many things: your status, your group affiliation, your beliefs.
Yeah, it's like fashion can be a way to rebel too, right?
Absolutely.
Mm.
Think about the punk movement or hip-hop fashion. Clothing is a form of self-expression, a way to challenge the status quo.
It's so powerful, and it's always changing. I mean, fashion trends come and go so
They
fast.
do, and that in itself is really interesting.
Yeah, what's up with that? Why are we so obsessed with what's in style?
Well, some anthropologists believe that fashion cycles are a way of reflecting changes in society.
Okay, like how?
Well, for example, the rise of miniskirts in the 1960s.
Oh, yeah.
That coincided with a period of huge social and cultural shifts,
So fashion is this mirror reflecting what's happening in the world.
Right. And as technology continues to advance, who knows what we'll see? We're already seeing the rise of wearable tech.
Right. Smartwatches, fitness trackers.
Exactly. But what about clothing that can respond to our emotions? Or clothing that can change its properties based on the environment?
Whoa, that's next level. Clothes that can, like, read our minds.
It's not impossible. Think about fabrics that can regulate temperature or change color based on your mood.
Okay, now we're talking. Fashion meets science fiction. I love it.
It's exciting, isn't it? The possibilities are endless. And it really makes you think about how our relationship with clothing might change in the future.
It does. I mean, it's almost like clothing is becoming this extension of ourselves.
Right. A way to express our individuality, but also a way to enhance our abilities, maybe even connect us to the world in ways we haven't even imagined yet.
It's mind-blowing, really. We started with this question, why do humans wear clothes? And we've ended up on this incredible journey through history, biology, culture, and even technology.
It's a reminder that even the most everyday things can have these deep, profound connections to who we are.
Well said. So next time you're getting dressed, take a moment to appreciate the complexity of it all.
Think about the history, the social signals, the technology, and yeah, even the evolutionary forces that have shaped this seemingly simple act of putting on clothes.
Because it's anything but simple.
It really isn't. It's a story that's still being written.
Thanks for joining us on this incredible deep dive, everyone.
Keep those minds curious.
And we'll catch you next time.